I've cut out some plates and bolted them down, and now I've got the first hoop sitting on the lift arms, and it's pretty decent. Might need to tilt in just a little bit, but it was good enough for me to use some electric tape and mock up my cut angle. So I can go ahead and remove that tape and tack it together. And I've got a fire blanket here so I can just cover up that fuel cell because I don't really want to blow up today. And there we go. Everything is tacked together on this side. Same thing up front. And as far as my gap goes, it's feeling very well. So that tape trick worked really well for the saw. So there we go. Now we've got a little loop. The second loop is in, but if you can tell, it is a little bit twisted, but that's okay. What I did was I made sure that that back bottom piece, the first bend, was parallel with this side over here, and I will tack in a cross piece, and then we can pull the top in or push it out to where it needs to be to get the back parallel, and then we'll do the same for the top up front and then also down here as well up front. So it just takes a little bit of finesse to get that all paralleled up, but the tubing is in bare form like this is not really that integrally, it's not that tough. We'll be able to bend it, no big deal. So as I mentioned, I'm going to start with my bottom piece here, and it's going to go across. So I've put the seats in place just so I know that nothing's going to be, in the way of any brackets or anything else. And I can measure inside to inside of my tubing. Now I made sure that these are parallel to begin with when I tacked it in place. So I'm at 34 3/4 of an inch inside to inside. Now, because of the fact that this is a round tube, I need to be able to have an extra 1/2 inch on each side to be able to cut my coping. So my cut measurement will be 35 3/4 inches. So now that I've got my tubing cut to length, I need to be able to mark it so that way when I cut my coping in the notcher here, that my coping is not twisted. So by using this piece of angle, I can just mark an indicator line on both sides. Now I just need to mark back a 1/2 inch and I'm ready to saw. All right, so I have my line here marked with the top of that notch in the clamp, and my hole saw is right on the edge of my mark here. It's been a while since I've run this saw, so we're going to give it a little juice, and we're going to keep the piece, the work piece, and the saw sprayed as well. Now this speed I think is 280 RPMs. That's the slowest this hole saw will go on this drill press. That notch worked very well, and now it's time just to hit that with a belt sander and knock off all the sharp edges and wipe down the oil, and it will be prepped for welding. After a test fit, I actually ended up cutting off another 1/4 inch and rounding it out on the belt sander. It's been a long time since I've cut something so short here, or such a small diameter. and it was so far down here that it ended up sticking up at the mouth of the coping. We want this to fit nice and tight. So now I can have a good weld surface all the way around. And there we have it. We've got the cage tacked up, and the only couple things left to do will be adding a tab for a light on the rear, and then we're going to do 2 more crossbars up front. And I need to get the height from the customer because he's going to have one of those fold down windows that goes on normal golf carts. And so I need to be able to have my mounting tabs in the right locations for that. And then I'm going to have to start working on that bumper like we talked about in the beginning. And that will mount where these screws are. So I have to take this bumper off and then bolt on a piece of angle iron, notch these, and then start building my uprights and start forming my tubing. Otherwise, it's coming together pretty well. And like I say, everything's just tacked. I want to get everything assembled before I start my final weld. I recently started cleaning my shop, and as far as organization goes, I know I got to clean up my mess from today, but I built this table, and I had some drops over there on the floor from the legs. So I cut up one of the legs today, and I'll show you why. I pulled the bumper off and took some measurements, and none of the angle iron that I had seemed like it would be a good fit for this, but that tubing was pretty good as far as my fitment went. So I just ripped 2 edges and cut the angle out of it that I needed, and then now this bumper will essentially just fit right over top, and once it's bolted on, most of this will be hiding. So I've got these plow stakes clamped together, and then I've been able to kind of set up a angle that I think I like, and now I've measured that this is about 6 degrees. To do that, I set up this speed square at the point of intersection, and then I line this up over at the top, and I can see that my angle is 6. So my plan is to make 2 bends about right there that are 3 degrees each, that will have just a small flat, and then 3 degrees off that way, 3 degrees off that way. I believe that'll work pretty good. I have this bent up and kind of where it needs to be. It'll be enough that I can start working on some supports. I've got these uprights tacked in, and now the bumper is in place, and I'm just waiting to hear back from the customer as far as the entire build, preferences and thoughts, and like I mentioned, those cross members for the windshield. So that is where we're at so far. Thanks for following along. If you are, feel free to like and subscribe and comment, ask questions, tell me I'm doing it wrong, any of that stuff. I am here to learn as well as you, or maybe you're just here to watch me do funny things and say stuff wrong. I don't know. So y'all have a good day and enjoy the rest of this build.